The courtroom is quiet, far too quiet. The sort of quiet that feels like it's pushing down on your chest and making it difficult to catch a breath. The judge has yet to arrive, but anyone in the room already senses this isn't a typical trial. Because today, they're not here to learn about what happened to Meri Brown. They're here to discover who she actually was in the days leading up to her disappearance. On the table in front of them lies a single letter. Meri's handwriting, Meri's words, Meri's signature. But the date stamped in the corner? 2 days after she disappeared. Christine can't look at it without trembling. Robin keeps whispering that it's fake. Janelle. She just sits there, staring into the middle distance, her face pale and unreadable. And in the front row somewhere, Kody tightens his fists, because if that letter is authentic, it doesn't just reveal a secret. It ruins everything they created together. A family based on faith, love, and devotion on the verge of falling apart by a few scribbles of ink. But who wrote that letter? Why now? And what truth lies hidden in the silence they've all been living? Because when Meri's voice returns from the grave, someone in that courtroom won't walk out innocent. It was a quiet morning in Flagstaff. The kind of stillness that feels almost heavy. Christine was folding laundry when the doorbell rang. A deliveryman stood there, holding a plain white envelope. No return address. Just her name written in Meri's handwriting. She paused. Meri hadn't called her in months. Not since that argument, the one which made everybody quiet for weeks. Christine considered it a joke. But there was something in the heaviness of that envelope that made her pause. She described later feeling as though it was alive, like it was waiting. She ripped it open. There was a single sheet of yellow paper inside. The first line was, "If you're reading this, I've already made my decision." Her heart fell. Meri's voice hadn't been soft or sentimental. It had been chill, last word deliberate. Christina's gaze went to the next line. "I know what he did. I know the truth about Coyote Pass. And I can't stay silent anymore." Christine froze. Her hands started to shake. She called Janelle. No answer. She tried Robin. Nothing. Finally she called Kody. He didn't believe her. Said Meri probably just left. "She's been threatening that for months," he said. But Christine pointed to the date on the letter. 2 days after Meri's car was found abandoned near Sedona. The keys were still inside. Something was wrong. Sometimes the instant you say to yourself you're overreacting is the instant that the truth begins to get away. When the police stepped in, they handled the letter like evidence. Exhibit A. They took it in for analysis, handwriting, fingerprints, DNA. The findings? Inconclusive. But the ink was still too fresh. Experts estimated it was written within 48 hours of being sent. Which means someone sent it after Meri went missing. So who sent it? Detective Hannah Rhodes assumed the case. She was quick, reserved, and didn't miss anything. She'd dealt with family disappearances in the past, but not like this. The first interviews with the Browns were like walking into a Cold War, she said. Janelle remained calm, even aloof. Robin sobbed throughout the entire ordeal. Christine paced, asking them if they were certain Meri was really gone. And Kody stared at the detective like he was tired of the whole story. He said, "People leave. Meri's emotional. She'll come back." Detective Rhodes slid the letter across the table and said, "Does that sound like someone who just needed space?" For the first time, Kody went quiet. That night, the story hit the local news. Mystery surrounds Meri Brown's disappearance. Letter raises questions. Everyone in town was talking about it. Was it a goodbye letter? A lie? Something sinister? Janelle turned off her cell phone. Robin locked the door to her bedroom. Christine couldn't sleep. She claimed she kept thinking back on one thing in her mind, an exchange 3 months prior. Meri had stopped her after dinner and whispered, "If anything ever happens to me, don't listen to what he says." Christine had thought Meri was being melodramatic at the time. Now it was beginning to sound like a threat. And that's when the fear shifted. It was no longer about losing Meri. It was about becoming aware someone in the family may know more than they let on. The subpoenas came the next morning. All 4 of them were subpoenaed into court, not as a family, but as witnesses in a potential criminal case. When they entered that courtroom, the hush was almost unbearable. Christina's fingers clung to the armrest. Robin held tissues. Janelle stared straight ahead. and Kody sat off in a corner, arms crossed, not uttering a word. The judge came in. Gavel banged once. Detective Rhodes rose and said, "Your Honor, we have a reason to believe this letter wasn't authored by Meri Brown. At least, not single-handedly. Because all families have secrets, but when love is evidence, the truth doesn't lie hidden for very long." The day of testimony began under gray skies. The courthouse steps were rainy and slippery, and camera flashes reflected off every umbrella. Reporters shouted questions, but none of the Browns had anything to say. They simply walked in, heads down, eyes straight ahead. A broken family plodding through a storm of their own design. Within the courtroom the air was strained. The judge, a serene woman with silvered hair, settled in. Detective Rhodes sat in the front row with her stacks of case files neatly arranged before her. Kody and the wives sat behind their attorneys, side by side but worlds away. When the judge said they would start the hearing with a reading of Meri's letter, you heard a swallow. The clerk opened the paper slowly, almost lovingly, and started to read. "If you're reading this, I've already made my decision. I know what he did. I know the truth about Coyote Pass. And I can't stay silent anymore." The words reverberated. They did not simply sound like a goodbye, they sounded like an accusation. Kody's attorney objected instantly. He told the letter was hearsay, that nobody could establish Meri even wrote it. But Rhodes moved forward and indicated quietly, "We're not basing anything on handwriting, Your Honor. We discovered something else." She pulled out an evidence bag. Inside was a small silver keychain with a mountain engraved on it. Coyote Pass. The kind of souvenir Meri used to sell online. But the strange part? The keychain was found inside an abandoned post office box rented under Meri's name. Opened 3 days after she vanished. Christine gasped. Robin's face went white. The judge raised an eyebrow and said, "Detective Rhodes, who opened the box?" Rhodes hesitated. "That's what we're trying to confirm." But the box was paid for with a shared family credit card. Kody's hands clenched. His jaw tightened. The room went silent once more. Everyone sensed it. The change in air, the dawning awareness that this was not merely a case of a missing individual. It was about money, trust, and betrayal knotted so intricately nobody could distinguish where love stopped and prevarication started. Later in the afternoon, it was Christina's turn to take the stand. Her voice was barely audible at first, shaking. The lawyer inquired when she had last seen Meri. Christine replied, 3 nights prior to her vanishing. "We were at Robin's house." She appeared distracted, fidgety. She mentioned that she needed to tell me something but didn't know how. "What was it?" asked the attorney. Christine dropped her gaze. "She told me she'd discovered something. A paper, something about the land. She told me it proved Kody had sold our land without our knowledge." The room rang out with gasps. Kody shook his head, grumbling to himself. His attorney stood, objecting once more, but the judge intervened. Christine went on. "She wasn't afraid for herself, she told me. She was afraid for all of us. When those around you begin to question what is real, that is when fear subtly becomes survival." The courtroom became silent once more. Rhodes moved forward, holding up a photograph, a copy of the supposed document Meri had spoken about. It was a property deed for Coyote Pass, signed only Kody's name. No wives included. No shared rights. The defense argued it was commonplace procedure. But Christine swore she had actually seen the original deed years ago, with all their names on it. When Christine left the stand, she appeared as though she'd aged 10 years in a single hour. She passed by Kody without glancing at him. Then Janelle appeared. Calm, measured, but obviously conflicted. She told her she'd also talked to Meri that week, that Meri was resolved about something but wouldn't tell her what. The lawyer pressed her. "Did she ever say anything about leaving Kody?" Janelle shook her head. She said she was staying for the truth. That phrase struck home. Rhodes leaned forward and asked, "Did Meri ever indicate that she felt in danger?" There was a lengthy silence. Then Janelle nodded. "Yes. She said that she believed somebody was spying on her. She believed perhaps one of us." Robin collapsed. Her crying filled the courtroom. She whispered, "That's not true," she was paranoid. The judge had to ask for a brief recess. Outside, Christine stood alone in the hallway, her reflection faint in the glass. She whispered to Janelle, "I can't tell if we're finding answers or just tearing what's left of us apart." Back in the courtroom when the hearing resumed, Detective Rhodes called her next witness, a postal worker from Sedona. A quiet man in his 50s who seemed nervous under the lights. He swore that a woman resembling Meri had brought a letter 2 days prior to when she vanished. But the post office mark on Christina's letter was 2 days later. So someone sent it later, Rhodes asked. Yes, he nodded. Someone had to have held it back. Did you see who was with her? He paused. A man. I didn't see his face well. He stood outside by a black truck. Everyone turned toward Kody. He sat motionless, eyes on the table. The judge called it a day. The session adjourned. Reporters shouted questions again as the family left. That night, Christine drove home in silence. She looked out at the rain-soaked road, the reflection of streetlights smearing across the windshield. In her mind she kept hearing Meri's voice. If anything happens to me, don't believe what he tells you. When she arrived home, there was another envelope sitting on her porch. No return address. She didn't open it. Not yet. Because sometimes the second letter doesn't cut it. It brings the storm that was lurking behind the first. Christine didn't sleep that night. The letter sat on her kitchen counter like a ghost, pale, unopened, waiting. She kept walking back and forth, looking at it, trying to figure out if she should call the police first or just open it herself. By morning, the storm had passed, and the world outside was ominously still. She brewed a cup of coffee she did not consume and finally ripped the seal off. Inside was another yellow page, same paper, same handwriting. But this time the letter was brief. It said, "You were right to question him. He knows about the letter now. Don't believe anyone who says I've gone." Christine froze. Her breath caught in her throat. The signature was there again. Meri's full name written carefully, like it had been rehearsed. But the problem was, the tone didn't sound like Meri. It sounded like someone pretending to be her. She phoned Detective Rhodes right away. Rhodes and his team arrived at the house within an hour, and they studied the letter with gloves and flashlights. They saw the same handwriting, but this piece of paper had something the first one did not, faint traces of blue ink near the border, as if someone had dropped a pen in a rush. Christine stood in silence while they packed it up. Rhodes turned to her and said, "I don't want you staying home alone tonight." But Christine would not go along. "I'm okay," she said. "I just want to know what's going on." Later that afternoon, she visited Janelle's. Robin was there ahead of her, still reeling from court. They all sat in silence until finally Janelle asked, "What if it's not her? What if someone's using her name to play us up?" Robin shook her head. "But who? Who would know enough to mimic her?" Christine whispered, "Someone close." Kody came in halfway through their conversation. His demeanor now was different, quieter, contained. He said the police were wasting their time, that Meri had likely gone off the grid to make a point. Janelle fired back, "A point? She abandoned her car, her wallet, her phone. What's the point of that?" Kody's jaw clenched. "You don't know how she was. She craved attention." Christine got up. "This is not attention. This is fear. There is a difference." The room was heavy with tension thick enough to suffocate. Nobody said anything after that. It's odd the way silence can be louder than a yell, particularly when everybody in the room is aware of something they will not say aloud. That night, Rhodes phoned Christine once more. The results from the second envelope of lab work were in. The fingerprints on it didn't belong to Meri. They belonged to someone else in the family. Rhodes wouldn't tell her who, not yet. But on the phone she sounded changed. Serious. Cautious. She instructed Christine not to tell anyone what she'd learned until the next day's court hearing. Christine hung up and stood there, gaping at the black window. Her reflection was alien. A woman who didn't recognize the family she'd served for years. The following day, the hearing continued. The courthouse weighed more, chilled more. Cameras filled the corridors once more. Reporters hushed as the Browns passed by. The day began with new proof. A photo displayed on the screen for all to view. 2 letters, one beside the other. Same writing, varying pressure. The first firm and flowing. The second trembly, uneven. The handwriting expert told them that although both looked like Meri's writing, there were traces, faint hesitations in the curves of the second letter, pauses too perfect to be real. Kody's attorney stood up. "So it's a forgery." Rhodes nodded. Maybe. But the question is by whom? The judge leaned forward. Detective, do you have a suspect? Rhodes hesitated once more. We're still verifying. But Christine saw something in them, something unsaid, as if she already knew but wasn't yet willing to speak. Following court, Rhodes told Christine to remain behind. She spoke to her quietly. The fingerprints on the second envelope are Robin's. Christina's heart sank. That can't be correct. Rhodes let out a sigh. We double-checked. It's hers. Christine endeavored to defend her. Maybe she touched it by accident. She was at my place last week. Perhaps, Rhodes replied, but the envelope wasn't present then. That evening, Christine confronted Robin. She arrived at her house unexpectedly, still dressed in her courtroom attire. Robin opened the door, and her eyes were red from tears. Christine held a photograph of the letter. Why were your fingerprints on this? Robin was shocked. What? I don't know. Christine moved closer. Did you write it? Robin shook her head. I promise I didn't. Then tell me the truth. Did you know where Meri was? Robin paused for a fraction of a second too long. Christine heard her own heart pounding. You're lying. Robin's voice broke. You don't understand, Christine. None of you do. She was planning something. What do you mean, planning something? She said she was going to reveal everything, Robin whispered. The money. The land. The marriage lies. All of it. Christina's face turned white. So what did happen? Robin wiped away her tears. She changed her mind. She said she'd write the letter and go. That's it. But she didn't go anywhere, Christine said. She disappeared. Robin spoke in a low whisper. I don't know what happened after that. Christine was about to leave when Robin said something that made her pause. She wasn't scared of Kody, Christine. She was scared of someone else. Christine slowly turned back to face her. Who? Robin's eyes welled up with tears. You. Sometimes the most exquisite betrayals aren't from enemies. They are from the people who have shared your secrets. Christine didn't reply. She simply turned and walked away, the words resonating through her head. When she returned to her car, her phone vibrated. A text message from a number that she didn't know. Said, stop digging. She's gone for a reason. Her hand shook. The message was sent through a blocked ID. Christine gazed up at the night sky, attempting to calm her breathing. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled once more. The storm was not finished. It was only just starting the following morning. Christine awoke to knocking. It was Detective Rhodes once more, appearing more fatigued than ever before. She'd been up all night poring over footage from the post office, scanning frame by frame for the black truck the postal clerk had described. They did find it. The license plate was somewhat visible, and the system searched it against a rental in Kody Brown's name. When Rhodes presented Christine with the photograph, her stomach fell. The date on the video was the same day the first letter was sent. Rhodes asked, has Kody ever mentioned why he was in Sedona that week? Christine shook her head. He claimed he was meeting with a contractor regarding Coyote Pass. Rhodes slowly nodded. Then he's got some explaining to do. That afternoon, Kody was called in for questioning. Cameras trailed behind him from the parking lot to the courthouse steps. He didn't speak to reporters. Inside, he regained his confidence. He called the allegation ridiculous, said the rental was for business, not Meri. But when he presented him with the video, the blurry figure of him emerging from the truck by the post office, his tone altered. He sat up, spoke quietly, do you think ID hurt her? Rhodes didn't respond. She simply asked, then tell me where she went. Kody exhaled, massaged his face. I don't know. She needed space. She said she'd write letters if she did. Rhodes slid the 2 envelopes along the table. Did she send these? He stared at them for a long time, and then whispered, no. Out in the hallway outside the interrogation room, Christine waited, twirling her wedding ring around her finger. Robin and Janelle were a few seats away from each other, not looking at one another. When finally Kody emerged, his face was white. They think I mailed it, he said. Christine asked, did you? He didn't respond. When individuals cease responding to basic questions, that is when the tale begins dictating itself, and it seldom finishes with sweetness. 2 days afterward, the investigation changed course. A hiker close to Oak Creek discovered a shred of fabric snagged on a tree limb, the sleeve of a floral blouse. The print was identical to one Meri wore in a family portrait mere weeks prior to vanishing. The finding drew everyone back to court. The district attorney made the announcement that they were elevating the case from missing person to suspicious disappearance. The courtroom air was crisp, laced with fear. Christine was up on the stand once more. She talked about the blouse, about how Meri adored that shirt, how she wouldn't have hiked in it. Rhodes entered pictures of the fabric, and the judge called for more analysis. Robin cried uncontrollably. Janelle simply gazed at the wall, her eyes glassy. Kody, however, was seething. When the judge recessed, he slammed his folder closed and spat. "They're making a circus of this." Christine snapped. "It's not a circus, Kody. It's your wife." The courtroom rang out with the outburst. Reporters wrote more frantically. Kody marched out in silence. That evening, the wives convened in private. No cameras, no attorneys. For the first time in months, they were in the same living room, surrounded by the specters of their former life. Janelle broke the silence. "I think we have to consider that she's not coming back." Robin shook her head intensely. "Don't say that. You don't know." Christine breathed softly. "Then where is she?" No one responded. Robin at last said, "She told me 1 week before she left. She said she was seeing a man who could assist her in making things right. I imagine she meant an attorney." "An attorney for what?" Christine inquired. Robin paused. "She said there were funds missing. Some of the land money went missing." Christine scowled. "You mean Kody stole it?" Robin did not answer, but the silence was deafening. Subsequently, as Christine was driving home, she saw headlights in back of her. Same car, same distance for almost 10 minutes. She made a left turn, a right turn. It followed her until she pulled over into a grocery store parking lot. The car slowed down, stopped at the exit, then drove away. She just sat there, her hands clamped around the steering wheel, panting. When she informed Rhodes the following morning, the detective didn't seem surprised. "We've had calls," she said. "People's been followed who are tied in with the case." Christine asked, "Do you think it is him?" Rhodes answered, "I think whoever sent those letters wants to frighten you into silence." Christina's voice cracked. "It is working." Rhodes leaned forward. "Don't let them. If you walk now, Meri's voice is silenced with you." Later the same afternoon, forensic results on the material were received. It contained gasoline, weak but unmistakable. Rhodes presented the evidence in court. "We think the material was burned and frayed," she explained to the judge. "We are considering probable foul play." The room fell silent. Kody's lawyer called for proof. "Where's the body?" he bellowed. Rhodes didn't flinch. "Sometimes the absence of a body isn't proof of life. It's proof of planning." Christine watched Kody's face harden. For the first time she saw something colder than anger, fear. After court, Kody approached Christine in the parking lot. His voice was low, urgent. "You need to stop feeding them lies," he said. "I'm telling the truth," she replied. He stepped closer. "You don't understand what you're doing." "Then tell me." He didn't. He merely whispered, "You don't know Meri." "You think you do." Then he left. That evening, Christina's phone rang once again. Block number. She didn't pick up. Instead, there was a voicemail. There were only 4 words in a woman's voice, whispered, "He's not the one." She listened to it 3 times, questioning whether it sounded like Meri. She didn't know anymore. Every secret comes to the moment when truth and fantasy become indistinguishable, and that is the most perilous place to be. Christine extinguished the lights and sat in darkness. Outside, thunder boomed again across desert hills. The storm returned. Another subpoena came by morning. Another witness was to be added to the case. The paper contained only one name. Anonymous. Christine read it twice, her heart pounding. Whoever it was, they'd requested complete protection, and they said they had evidence of who actually sent the letters. The hearing was scheduled for Friday. As Christine folded the notice and put it on the counter, she whispered to herself, "Please let this end." But she knew deep down this was not the end. The storm had been moving in circles. It was now poised to strike.